Hi there, it's Dr. JOYLYN Sparkles here. I'm gonna start over. Hey there, it's Dr. JOYLYN Sparkles and welcome to your Power Hour. This is your time to put what's on your mind on my mind, and we'll put our heads together and we'll come up with a way to get from stuck to happy as fuck in a short amount of time as possible. We've had a couple of really great weeks talking about the emotional work, emotional addiction, getting out of it, dealing with feelings. A lot of us are pretty emotional people and we are densely wired that way. There is nothing wrong with that. It's how we were built. But sometimes that intensity can take over and kind of run our lives into a direction that we don't really like. So we got to figure out how to handle that shit and do it in a better way so that we maintain our sovereignty, our autonomy, and our place as authority in our lives over our feelings, not being run by them. So today we're talking a lot about that, how to be the dominant energy in our life. And so I put in this is for those of you, of us who, you've been on this spiritual and self-growth journey for a long time. It's actually some ways just what you do. And it's who you know yourself as. And you're always just trying to be better. But if we don't take a step back, we can actually lose ourselves in this identity and lose touch with what we were going for and what was the point in the beginning anyway. And our endless journey of trying to feel better, we don't really get to maintain that better. It's like it's fleeting. We touch it and then it drops off. We touch it and then it drops off. And how do we create sustainable happiness and be the dominant energy in our life? Because a lot of you, of me, I know from dysfunctional childhoods and a lifetime of different interactions and relationships with narcissists, of becoming people pleasers, of shrinking and diluting ourselves. And so how do we get to be the main character in our life and be the dominant energy? That's what we're talking about today. So though it might seem like a weird starting place, what I want to really start with is the benefits of the work. This is what we were sort of sold and promised and actually initially went for, but now since it's just sort of become what we do and we're just on an endless journey to be better, we've maybe forgotten how lit up it can be, what we're really going for. So the benefit of the work, and when I'm talking about the work, in this case, it's emotional mastery, communication, mastering the art of communication so that we can live in harmony with other people. Now, for a lot of us, and you might be in it right now, there often is a time of some isolation, some pulling back, some drawing in, because we have to really get to know our own energy and who we are and what it means to be us. And that's natural, but what it really is should be a progression to where then we can be out and with people and living in harmony and not at the effect of other people's energies. That is the goal. And that's one of the big benefits that we will get. Here, I'm just going to refresh my screen so I can see comments and questions coming in. So the benefit of doing this work, of really learning how to handle your emotional shit, how to deal with the big feels, how to start checking in and checking off and out of emotional addiction and having just the habitual feels of this is who I am and how I know myself. The benefit of the work, by and large, underline it, put it in all caps, is higher self-esteem. Because when you're able to handle your shit, you know that you're in control. And not in a controlling, manipulative way to where you're trying to manage and arrange all these moving parts so that they go just right because your security is built on shifting sand and that's the only way for you to feel safe is if you're controlling everything. It's a level of control, meaning of yourself, but again, not in an over-dominating way to where you push yourself down and you bottle yourself up. But this steadiness, this core, this poise that's built on a rock of you standing tall and knowing that no matter what comes at you, you can face it because you're bigger than it, bigger than your past, bigger than whatever anybody's throwing at you, bigger than any situation, bigger than any financial crisis, bigger than any economic or political or socio whatever going on outside of you is not bigger than you and your ability to maintain connection to who you truly are and come up with creative possibilities for how to work around and go beyond it. That is the benefit of the work, is higher self-esteem. And so many of my clients come to me because it's confidence that they're after. They want to be more confident. They know that they know their shit, whatever they're experts in. They know that they're intelligent because they have a history of academic success. They actually know they think too much and too often. But they know they're intelligent, so why can't they figure this out? It's stemming from an inability or a mishandling of emotions that leave us always leaking our energy out. And so not having this congruent, solid core of knowing who we really are and that we can handle anything. Because when you do, your self-esteem goes up. That's what brings the confidence, is knowing that you're the big deal. Like knowing that, like deep, deep down. Not looking outside for somebody to tell you or for, you to win this award or overcome this obstacle. You just know it in, out with every breath. And when you do that and you get that way and you start building, it's a process. It's not just that you go from nothing to everything, okay? Like that's a process and it grows. So it's actually another benefit of the work is continual improvement. Things just get better and better and better. Like a lot of us, and myself included, I want this instant gratification and immediate turnaround to where just poof, everything's better. But part of the work is reigniting and reestablishing and finding joy in the process and loving the journey and recognizing how it's a movement up. You are elevating. You're moving up the ladder of emotions. Now, there's some dancing and step backs, but very rarely huge backslides that, again, never not overcomable, okay? And so when you do this a number of times and you start getting the hang of it, you start building your confidence, because confidence comes through doing, not thinking about doing, but actually doing it, meaning failure actually builds confidence. And so when you actually attempt and you're doing these things, you're building confidence, you're recognizing that you're growing these faith muscles and these trust muscles and all of these things. And the way that you walk through the world, the way that you talk to yourself, the way that you show up in situations and the impact that you can have starts to change and become greater in every sense of the word, meaning it's bigger and broader, but it's actually more elevating and lifting for you, for everybody that you come in contact with. To where you really do, and this is what the Happiness Clinic is based on, you go from this place of things are happening to me, in me, around me, to I happen to things. This is what the external is presenting, so how do I happen here to create the effect and have the outcome that I desire? How do I maintain my calm, my poise, my peace, my confidence, to where then I make choices, I'm not reacting, I'm choosing, I'm responsible. I'm able to respond and I'm able to create responses in and around me as well, to where we're not just at the effect of it, we are affecting things, okay? So how a lot of people come to me when they work with me, I want to be calm under pressure. I want to be brave. I want to be more adventurous. I want to be badass. I want to be poised. I want to like myself. I want to be comfortable in my own skin. This is what I help people do because it's what I've had to overcome. Like in my life, my teenage years, all the way through college, even going a little bit into medical school, I had even said out loud to people, I wish I was anyone else. I've struggled with depression, eating disorders, suicide. I know this process. I know hating the process. I know hating people who've already accomplished it and made it look so easy and talked in real airy-fairy theoretical terms. That's why I'm coming to you with real talk, because I'm breaking it down into the how-to. But one of the things that we always have to do is slow down to speed up and get reacquainted with what's the point in the beginning. Because if we don't know what it is we're trying to create, if we don't know what future it is we're going for, then we just start to get on this hamster wheel and do stuff, and that's where we don't make solid gains. We don't acknowledge our progress, so we don't get to actually feel and live that continual improvement. So the benefit is higher self-esteem, more confidence, being calm under pressure, knowing you can handle this no matter what it is. Being brave, being badass, being bold, speaking up, putting yourself out there, taking risks. This is who you're going to start to know yourself as and see yourself be in real life, not just like, what is it, Walter Mitty style, where it's all in your head, okay? And the great thing about this is so much of the reason that we're maybe not this already is from early childhood programming, trauma patterning, to where a lot of what we've been doing is this survival mode, just trying to create some sense of safety, and the security comes from the controlling. But when we start to know who we are and that we impact and that I happen to things aren't happening to me, that's when our security and our safety comes from inside. So it's not about who's around us, it's not who we're with, it's not what they say or what they do. And it's not just about how I feel, because the feelings are going to change. The feelings aren't facts. It's going to be what I know, how I identify as, and this is a security, this is a safety that can never be taken away. So that is a firm, solid, happy platform to be launching your future from. All right? This is the reason to do the work, okay? Now, in and through all of this, what happens when you start to know who you are and you're in charge of your energy and your emotions, you become less reactive because you feel safe. It's that lack of safety, the lack of security that's coming from really, really early on. That's what tends to make us really reactive assholes. To where then we can't believe somebody said or did something, and if they don't do this or they do that, that means this about me, and we look to the outside to see how we are on the inside. That will start to go away. When we are less reactive, we are way more powerful, because we're going to be less in the low beta brainwave patterns and moving more into the high beta, maybe even maintaining alpha, even in stressful situations, to where then we have connection to our creativity. We have connection to divinity, to inspiration, to being open to new ideas for how to change things that we don't like. And then the changing things isn't just because we have to, or out of dire desperation, or because we hate something and resist it so much, or because we're so convinced that it's wrong. That it's actually becoming more and more from, I'd just like to experience something else. I've had this long enough. I'd like to do something else. Wow, I've really been unhappy with my body long enough. I'd really just like to know what it's like to be comfortable in my own skin. Not, I need to be comfortable in my own skin. I can't stand that I'm not. I see other people do it. And that might be where you start. And that's where we'll start. Because we'll start where you are. But it's going to be moving to, that actually just seems a lot more fun. It's going to light me up a lot more. I'm going to go for that. To where we don't have to explain or understand all this past stuff. It's going to be less reacting to and trying to avoid something that we had that we didn't like, and just moving to, this is what I like. It just sounds like more fun. I've never had this before. Or it's been a long time since I'd had it and I like it back again. I'd like to have it on even greater amount of time and intensity. This joy of intensity of embodiment and living and loving life. I just want that. So where it's not coming from reaction to or in reference to someone or something else, it's just straight out of your heart's desire. Again, that is a much more powerful place to create and move from and to. When you do that, you need a lot less external motivation and somebody kicking you in your ass or having to have an accountability buddy, because you're just naturally going to be magnetized to something that you already know you're capable of having. Yay! All right. So, what is the work then? This is the benefit of doing the work. Oh my goodness, it sounds fantastic, right? Continual improvement, higher self-esteem, greater confidence, being a badass, having more impact on your life, recognizing that you're the big deal, nothing else is, and your past does not determine your future. Woot! All right, so what is the work? The work is basically getting rid of all the shit that's in the way. That's why we haven't had it already. Okay? It is not about fixing stuff. You're not broken. Your past isn't even broken. And even though really, are you sure? Your family's not broken, okay? I love them all, but good grief, that was a tough upbringing, okay? But they're not even broken. It was a perfect system to create me, who I am, as I am, so I can talk to you about your unbroken, broken, perfect families, whatever, and get you into who you really ought to be. That's not in reference to them anymore, okay? They just shaped you, but they didn't maim you in any way. Everything that they did, you can actually use for your benefit. Hooray! So the work, again, is just getting rid of all the limiting beliefs, which is basically these things that we picked up early on, that we bought from authorities, primary caregivers, about this is how the world works, this is the rules of the game, this is the truth that actually might not be really true, but just bullshit that's been handed down, okay? And we're starting to recognize it doesn't really work for us, it's not very fun, it's pretty disempowering, and we're feeling maybe some level of miserable and disenfranchised powerlessness, okay? And if you're like me, you're just getting bored with that. I want something else. This is boring already. Now, I know a lot of people say, when you hit bottom, you move up. Guess what? We're infinitely creative, so the bottom can drop, and pain will motivate, desperation will motivate, but actually, we are such social and pleasure-seeking individuals, human beings, that is. A lot of it just comes from boredom. We do it until we're bored, until it's actually lost its entertainment value, until it's lost its ability to really distract us from our heart calling us and saying, I'd like something else. And we can get to that faster. That's what I do. Help you get to that faster. So the work then is getting rid of all that stuff. The number one thing you got to do, the future forward focus, is re-identify who you are. You're not trying, you're not struggling, you're not a victim, you've done more than overcome, so that cannot be the pinnacle of your existence. You're creative, you're happy, you're loving and lovable and caring and magical. This is who you really are right now. And so actually starting to identify as that and ask questions as that person, to choose from that person, for that person, so they can emerge more fully, instead of identifying as a trier, a seeker, a struggler, because those keep us in this one part of the process instead of actually one who has it. So we really have to change how we see and talk to ourselves. Then, from there, a whole lot of awareness is going to open up. It is going to expand big time, and a lot of what's going to become available, that's going to be moving from subconscious to conscious, is the limiting self-beliefs and filters that we've had in place for why we haven't been being and expressing that magnetic, radiant being already. That is really uncomfortable, and a lot of times that's what we start reacting to and go back into our survival pattern, because we start reacting to the awareness and all the bullshit that we've been telling ourselves, and painful limiting beliefs and mimicry and programming that we've taken on and done that have kept us from actually being who we really truly are, which is amazing. It's not pleasant. So a lot of the work is actually practicing non-reaction and learning how to emotionally process and handle the big feels that come with the reemergence of some stuff that was stuffed down really deep down. It's always been there. It's always been operating. It's just now that it's moving up to a consciousness level so that we can actually be aware of it, because then we can actually release it. So instead of reacting, we start releasing. We set it down, and instead of trying to understand it or interpret it, we set it down and just keep looking to our priorities and our real values and the outcomes that we'd like to create for ourselves. That is the biggest part of the work. One thing that I do want to mention here, I'm just going to slide it in because I said last week, I talk a little bit about narcissist empath dynamics, and we'll get into those maybe next week or something a little bit deeper. But a lot of the awareness, if we're ready for it, is to actually see how we co-create it. Again, because you're not a victim. You never were. You're way too creative and powerful for that, even when you don't want to acknowledge it. To where you've never truly been at the effect of somebody totally. It will appear that way, and the dynamics will sometimes play out that way, but it always happens with consent, and a lot of times there's coercion because that creates a relationship dynamic that we know, that as uncomfortable as it may be, we know we can live through it, and so our subconscious says, hey, we can deal with this. Now, when we start waking up to the dynamics and actually do start seeing that there's been a lot of abuse that we've taken that maybe we shouldn't have, and should's not the right word to use, it wasn't fair, it wasn't our fault, it wasn't any indication of what you were worth or deserved, but it maybe did happen. And sometimes we also have to acknowledge the hurt that we've had. That we've taken on, and that now we may have even been partial contributor to. Because even maybe when that person stopped, we started doing it to ourselves with our super huge negative self-talk. Because, I mean, there's so much about gaslighting. Narcissists gaslight you and make you doubt yourself. How many times do you do that to yourself a day? Let's be honest. So a lot of the work is starting to be honest about what is true right now, what has been true, again, just to heal, to grieve, to mourn. And if you grieve fully, there's a natural release at the end. Grief is almost like, I call it like the gondolier, you know, like he's moving us from one place to another, from this place of sad and disappointment and, loss, to opening up to new beginnings. That's a full grief process, so it's never all bad, okay? But we have to move through that. We have to learn how to feel that in our bodies, okay? So, yeah, that's the other part of the work, is learning how to use our bodies in this process. So many of us with our trauma imprinting and patterning and survival skills, which are amazing, yay you're still here, we're going to live in our heads a whole lot and think about our feelings and think through our feelings, but not actually feel them because they're inconvenient. They come up at really inconvenient times because of how the brain and the trauma, and it's associational. So it just might be a smell, a shadow, a temperature, a body sensation, a certain level of biophysiology and the chemistry that's going on that brings this up. A song that's on the radio that you weren't expecting to hear, and boom, memories, and you're back there. And I don't have time for this because I've got a board meeting in 10 minutes. I get it. Some of our survival skills is having to been packaging our emotions, but the thing is we never came back to them and said, okay, now I've got space and time for you. To where they either get so intense, they've started to take over our life and we're like an emotional basket case or a hot mess or a dumpster fire or however you started to call yourself. But instead of identifying as that, just recognize I need more self-love. I need to give myself more time. I actually have to learn how to let this run through my body and practice and witness that I didn't die. I didn't either evaporate or get smote by lightning or because it feels like that level of intensity for some of us because our nervous systems are so sensitive. But we actually witness, I made it. I lived through that. I can do it again. And when we do it that way and stop adding narrative on top of it, we see that the process actually doesn't take that long and it's not as painful. It was actually the thought of how painful that it would be that made it worse. So that's part of the work as well. Practice. Practice, practice, practice. I so wish for you and for me that I could vacuum that part out of the whole thing and just be like, yeah, 5 minutes, you're set for life. And that's what a lot of people are going to sell you about hypnosis and subconscious imprinting and doing all and clearing. All of these things are amazing tools and they will absolutely speed up the process. I use all of them. I love all of them. But there's no way to actually be somebody new without practicing being somebody new and making choices as somebody new so that you can have it in your life. We have to get out of thinking. We have to get into living. And this body and learning how and what the emotional messengers are and not reacting to them, but actually being curious about them. Not in a way of trying to interpret or understand them, but actually just be like, what am I aware of right now? Learning how to do that, because that's a learned skill. Learning how to use some of these tools that people talk about that they think are so intuitive and like, I should just tell you about it, you know. I actually teach you how to use them so that you know this is a tool for today. This is the one, it didn't work, so I just move on to that. Practicing every bit of this, because that's how we recondition the nervous system, and being in this body on this planet at this time is absolutely required. We have to recondition the nervous system. So there's no way of doing it only in our heads. We can facilitate and expedite, make faster the process by doing a lot of mindset work, but it's going to be actually practicing, talking, getting vibrations and chemistry running through our bodies, interacting with other people. Yes, in real life, in real time. And aren't other human beings just the most annoying, lovable things in the world? They're just reflections of where we need more love. Everybody's playing out their own play and learning where they need more love, and hopefully being invited to come out of their trauma and survival patterning to where we can together start contributing and collaborating instead of coercing and manipulating. That's what we're going for. But it will take practice, especially when it comes to boundaries. It's going to actually have to be performed, spoken, lived through. That uncomfortable silence when somebody does something and you know they want you to emotionally caretake, or this is the part where you people please and give up on yourself and you're not doing that. And there's that uncomfortable thing where you feel like you're going to like incinerate from the inside out or just die because the air got sucked out of the room. Like, these are the physiology, like the intensity that we're actually learning how to process, and you're actually going to have repeated experiences with them to witness that you don't die, to build the muscles so that you can be calm under pressure and nothing pushes you off your position to where you're the dominant energy in the room without dominating others, because you actually know that they are sovereign, autonomous, lovable, beautiful, and deserving of every good thing in the world just like you. And we learn how to do that together. So I guess there's one other benefit of the work that I didn't even mention that is actually the penultimate, is harmony. Learning how to be with other people, because we are human. We are, by nature, by design, tribal, social animals, and we can't live our fullest and best lives all on our own, all in our head, in isolation. We were meant to do this together. And a lot of us, even more so now perhaps, after and through the pandemic, are craving these really heartfelt connections, but they can't be possible if we're not connected to ourselves. And so that's what we're starting to recognize, is my connection with myself is a little bit shaky. That is what the work is how to strengthen the connection with yourself, with your divine, with who you truly are, so you can have higher self-esteem, walk through the world, show up in a different way, know that I happen to things, know that you are as wonderful and beautiful as me, and I'm actually as wonderful and beautiful as you, because a lot of us have it turned backwards to where everybody else is more greater, better. But that I also get to count here, I get to say things, I get to exist, I get to have my preferences and feelings. And we're learning how to do that. And so what I would love to do is be a contribution to you in your process. That is what the Happiness Clinic is about, is the how-to, having the practice, having a coach, someone who's actually walked through the fire, gone through the weeds, whatever metaphor you want to use. I have done it, I continue to do it, so that I can be there for you to say, oh yeah, it looks like you're failing, you're actually doing wonderfully right now. Everything's just falling apart because it's going to fall together. Just keep breathing. Here's a tool you can use, here's a tool you can use. Oh yeah, here's where you've gone back into habit. It's going to sound a little bit different because your narrative made it real subtle, but you're back in your habit. Think about it, run it through your body. Okay, great. You're back on track. This is how you go faster, is with support. Every program is built on the future forward focus, re-identifying yourself and learning how to gain and work through, navigate the awareness and practice without giving up too soon, practice without getting caught up in old habits. Let me help you. I love this stuff. It makes me happy that you become happy. Really, truly, in all honesty, I love this. This shit lights me up. So I've got a couple of things. Badass Basics. I almost forgot about it, but I had a client and I was like, let me give this to you. It's free. It's a 3-module course. I'll put the link in the thing, and I'll actually remember to do it this week. Badass Basics is free. The 6-week Get Unstuck and Happy as Fuck Challenge is one of the fastest, 6 weeks to a new identity. Holy shit. I'm going to be opening that up at the end of the month, later this month. I'm just working on calendar dates because I got to do that. And set up. The 90-day relationship remodel is ready when you are, because that's an individual program. You don't have to wait for enrollment or anything. You just set up and say, hey, I want to work with you, and we talk about how to get that done. All right? Whether it's one of these other programs with a 90-day relationship remodel, you can start as early as tomorrow, because we'd have to talk today. And then Love Yourselves, the enrollment will open again so that it'll start again in May or June. So there's so much available at all different price points because finances is part of your real life. I get it. I've been there. So there's a wealth of different varying options. Payment plans are available for every single one of those. So don't make that your excuse. If you're ready to have higher self-esteem, to actually be confident, comfortable in your own skin, calm under pressure, and this is who you know yourself as on the daily, and start witnessing and seeing it, and then see what else comes from that instead of being this reactive, oh my goodness, I'm an empath and these narcissists are ruining my life. If you want a different lived reality, let's talk, okay? I would love to be there for you. This is how you become the dominant energy of your life. You get out of reaction, okay? You know who you are, you change how you see yourself, and there's tons, boatloads of resources, including Dr. Sparkles here, that's ready to help you start, okay? I already am looking forward to next week and talking to you again next Power Hour. Until then, know that you are loved, and like I had a supervisor would always say, go gently knowing your goodness. All right, peace and many blessings. Mwah.